Thank you for the moderator for giving me the time. Okay, now I will explain the next material about design, development, and dissemination of instructional material. Okay, what the design in instructional material? Design is a systematic process of specify learning objective. Detailed storyboard and prototype are often made and the look and feel. Graphic design, user interface, and content is determined here. And then development. Development is the actual reaction or production of the content and learning material based on the design phase. And then instructional material. Instructional material, they contain the content either written, mediated, or facilitated by an instructor. The content includes material for the major objective, the terminal objective, and any material for enhanced memory and transfer. The design, development, and dissemination are the three phases of instructional making. We will now look at the creating principle for each phase. The first, accumulated experience. The writer reviews or survey existing material which can give useful information about the demands and the needs in the field. And the second, rationale for the design. It identifies the shortcoming of the existing materials to ensure that such shortcomings are not repeated in the present material. The third, conceptual framework combines major and minor concepts regarding language learning, language teaching theories, and material design principles upon which the material is anchored. Conceptual framework is divided into two, major concept and minor concept. Minor concept refers to the overall principle of second or foreign language learning and teaching will affect every aspect of the design of the instructional material. And then minor concept refer to the following. The first, organization of language skill to be taught. The second, selection, gradation and arrangement of contents. And the third, methodology associated with the acquisition of this skill. And then the last, organization for the development and dissemination of the material. Detailed writing of the specification for the new materials. The specification includes the first, cost of the material. What are the costs of the instruction and then where we are going. Second, subject matter. Language content to be covered and the skill to be acquired through the content. And the third, techniques and mode of presentation, practice, use and management associated with the learning of the content. What the instructional strategies and the instructional medium, how we will get there. And the fourth, format of the material including how learning units are divided. And the last, technical detail for the writing of the materials. In the next, developmental phase. There are three stages in developmental phase. The first, writing the experimental materials. And the second, internal evaluation of materials. And the third, control throughout. And the next, dissemination phase. The first, extensive use of the new AM. And second, field evaluation of the AM, how we will evaluate and revise the instructional material for the future improve, and how will we know when we have arrived. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Alright, hello everyone, my name is Merafuji Salamatunajah. The next material is about guidelines for developing materials. The following guidelines were based on the final report of the 5th sub-regional workshop on the development of basic literacy learning materials for unreached population in South Asia. First, need assessment surveys and identifies the concerns of the target learners because the objectives of the material should be carefully drafted based on the interests, problems, and need of the target learners. The material that teachers teach should be appropriate with students' needs. Then, beside considering students' needs, teachers or material developer also need to consider the interest or students' interest and connecting students' interest and students' need. For example, students need to improve reading skill, so the text presented can made of attractively suitable with their interests and problem. So the material can be seen that appropriate for students. The second is development of curriculum grids. It helps material developers and teachers to know learners' needs and to decide on the content of the level of materials to be produced. From there, we can know the first goal of National Literacy Program, then core content based on national outcomes, then locally relevant content based on the identified needs of the learners, and then prescribed levels, and the last levels of literacy skills of learners. This really helps materials developer to develop materials. The third is selection of theme. After we as teacher know the students' needs, we also need to select the theme, determine what theme will dress up, as we know together that in learning material each topic has its theme, right? But we cannot choose it randomly. We need to select the appropriate theme. For example, is what appropriate theme for elementary students, is what appropriate theme for junior high school, for senior high school. So we select the theme based on students' needs and students' interest. Then the fourth is setting up the objectives. As we know, teaching learning process help to reach the goal. Each course has its goal, has its objective. Therefore, in developing material developer need to setting up the objectives, setting up the goal or the outcome of the course. In setting up the objective, materials developer can use several questions. For example, what do we want our students to learn? What do we want our students to be able to do? And so on. Then, deciding on the format. Firstly, to deciding on the format, we have several tips that we need to consider. The first considerations, it include age group, location in which the instructional material is to be used, the literacy level of the target clientele, then cost of development and use of the material, and the ability of the teachers to utilize the material, then type of that the material plays. Because the format of the material for elementary school and junior high school is different, so we need to consider it. Of course, the material developer want to develop material in a great way, but we also need to consider the course. It's important to consider the course also in the development material and the other aspect that I have mentioned before. Then various format. The first written, such as booklet, flashcard, flip charts, posters, comics, and etc. And then electronic media such as audio tapes like songs, drama, talks, or a television program, and etc. And then the last interactive format such as CD courseware, web-based courses, and online hyperlinks. It depends on you for material and intended audience. Then selection and arrangement of content. Of course, material developer will select and arrange the content well back to the appropriate material, so developer will select one, the appropriate, and arrange it well. Then titles and captions. Each content needs title and caption, right? We need it to make reader or user easier to understand the content and materials well. And then script writing, it includes script expressions, inclusive language, short sentences, illustrations, local language flavor, reading flow, and attractive layout. And then the next illustrations. To make material easier to understand and interesting, material will be equipped by illustrations. And then the last, editing. If all already completed, it's time to review, recheck, and edit the material. Alright everyone, that's all from me about guidelines for developing materials. And then the next material will be delivered by Rizky Gunadi. Thank you.
Okay, hello, my name is Muhammad Rizky Gunadi. So let's continue to another material that I will presentation for you. It is a materials evaluation. So let's get know what is the material evaluation. Okay, first, evaluate material here means that teacher would select the existing materials into their design course. So let's see the explanation, the definition from another resources. First is according to Atkinson and Waters, state that evaluation is a matter of judging the fitness of something for a particular purpose. So what does it means from the Atkinson and Waters? It means that when the teacher does a material evaluation, the evaluation is based on the required purpose or goal that would be reached by the students. According to Atkinson and Waters, state that in any kind of evaluation, decision finally made is likely to be better for being based on systematic check of all the important variables. So here is why do we evaluate materials, and we have three answers here. First is to identify the popular and successful feature of existing material, which will help us to produce better materials. Okay, next point is principle in material evaluation. There are two here. There are two here. The first is effectiveness principle. Is a course book effective in meeting the needs of the learners? So compare what the learners knew and were able to do before they use the course book with what they knew and are able to do after they have used the book. First is effectiveness. It is a course book. It is effective or not in the meeting the needs of the. Okay, the next point is how do you evaluate materials, and from Atkinson and Waters again state that evaluation is basically a matching process, matching the needs to a valuable solution in order to match the needs and solution. The match should be done as objective as possible. It means that the teacher have to look the needs of student and then solution separately. In the final analysis, any choice will be made on subjective grounds. However, if subjective influence your judgment. So, and there a process of evaluation can be divided into four major steps. So here the first is defining criteria, subjective analysis, objective analysis, and the last is matching.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Rohyani. My student's number is 192122089, and I will be discussing about evaluating a textbook. A book might be ideal in one particular situation since it may perfectly match the needs of that situation. Like it may have just the right amount of material for the program. It may be easy to teach. It may call for little preparation, or it may equally cover all the skills and grammar points. Before evaluating the textbook, we should consider the role of the textbook in the program. A textbook mostly determines the syllabus and objectives. Will it be employed with small or big classes? Will learner be expected to buy a workbook as well, or should the textbook provide all the practice students read? So factors involved in the development. The, the book should representing the interest of the author. The books representing the interest of the publisher. So criteria for textbook evaluation. Now, according to there are 4 criteria that for evaluating textbook. They should correspond learner needs. They should reflect the uses. They should take account of students' need as learner and should facilitate the learning process. And then the last, they should have a clear role as a support for learning. And then that's the last. This is the last material. I will give it back to the moderator. Thank you.